Hey everyone, welcome to the Bionicle Inspiration Series. It's me, your host, Ben Cossy. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about Dark Hunters. Now you might be like, but Ben, what the heck is a Dark Hunter? Well, a Dark Hunter is something from the Bionicle storyline, for those of you who may or may not remember. So the Dark Hunters are a band of mercenaries and bounty hunters under the command of a single leader known as the Shadowed One. The members are frequently known only by their code names, and they specialize in theft and assassination, all in the name of profit. So they're probably the coolest characters in the Bionicle universe. They're pretty awesome. If you remember well enough, there was a book, which I'm currently holding in my hands, called Dark Hunters by Greg Fasterty, and it was a Bionicle book just showcasing all of them. It was a really fun book to look through. I'm sure many of you spent your childhood looking through that, or your adult years, who knows. But lots of cool characters there, lots to talk about, and something that I've not covered in the show yet. So, we're going to talk about Dark Hunters. But before we do, let's take a look at some of the Dark Hunters in case you're still like, I still don't know enough about them. So, here are some from the Dark Hunter book, but you might be like, I feel like I've heard that Dark Hunter name before. Where's that from? Well, characters like Nidhiki and Krekka that we actually got sets of, they were considered Dark Hunters, as well as every single Paraka. They were also considered Dark Hunters. All of them had their code names. Did Krekka and Nidhiki have code names? Oh, I don't know about that. Someone correct me if I'm wrong there, but I know all the Paraka did. But interesting, there you go. Still, Dark Hunters. Cool guys. Let's talk about some from the community. Let's go. So, first mock we have is by Mohammed Miri, and it's called The Shadowed One. So, we just spoke about the Shadowed One, who is the leader of the Dark Hunters. Here is a mock inspired by him. So actually, each Dark Hunter that I'm going to be covering in this episode is kind of a different take that you could look into when making a Dark Hunter of your own. So in this example here, we're going to be talking about going onto Biosector, opening up your Bionicle Dark Hunter book, picking a character and going, I'm going to make a different version of that specific character. Because, yeah, we take a look at some of those fan creations of those Dark Hunters, which, by the way, apparently back in the day there was a contest, and if you entered something into the contest and won, your mock became the canon version of that character, which I think is so cool, right? And Lego's done little bits of that since then, which is really, really cool, really great way to engage with the community there. But yeah, just super awesome that was the case. And so some of those models are fantastic, and we'll see more of them later in the show. But some of them, they're a little dated. Some of them could use a bit of work. So there's no reason you couldn't pick a specific character, or even some of the characters that never actually got builds but were named in the stories, and make your own version of it, or revamp what's currently there, update it a bit, And we see that with this mock here. This is a very CCBS-heavy Shadowed One, versus, obviously, CCBS didn't exist at that time, and there was no CCBS on the original Shadowed One. Also, there's a whole bunch of debate as to whether or not the Shadowed One is three-legged or two-legged, because it's kind of up in the air. I always saw it that he had a tail and he had two legs, and I honestly think that looks better than the sort of tripod design that he seems to have in the official model, which we're currently seeing now. This is the official model. But you take a look at some of the canon art, as well as just some fan art of the Shadowed One, and he has a very kind of Anubis look with two legs and a tail and stuff, and honestly, I think that captures the character more, in my opinion. So all sorts of stuff like that you can do, maybe the stories paint the character in one way, but the official pictures painted in another, and you want to be more true to one of those. So when you're making it, just see what you want to do, and listen to what you want to do. You don't have to, distinctly 100% follow what the canon says. You do what you want. Anyway, let's talk a bit about the mock. So, some really nice additions to what the canon had. Like I was saying before, a lot of the other fan art of this character really seems to focus on Anubis. And we kind of very much see that on the head here, sort of having these little ear bits and sort of other little sort of detailings and details around that Vaki head there. Really makes it look more kind of Anubis-like, gives him more of a sort of menacing face, which is very fitting of this character. I think it's super cool to see. And then we see other little nice additions like the staff that he's got here, using those Construction Chima blade pieces there to really make that staff pop. It looks really cool. It's kind of a great way to update the staff that he originally had in the official pictures, and make it just a bit more cool looking. I like it. And overall, this sort of more heavily CCBS design here looks fantastic. Really kind of gives him this sort of nice armored look Looks like someone you don't want to mess with, and that's what the Shattered one is. So I think that's just really, really cool. So yeah, great to see the interesting and different ways that Mohammed has managed to update the character here, using more heavily CCBS instead of the sort of more traditional Bionicle parts. Kind of looking into other avenues that this character is being explored in, like the Anubis stuff that I was saying, all of that. And yeah, kind of taking the character in on his own and making it his own. It's cool. I like it a lot. So let's take a look at the next mock, which is Lurker by Kuon Shaden. But, as we mentioned before, if you entered a mock into the contest and you won, then your mock became the set. So technically the guy who officially made this mock way back when, his name was Tok. And I believe he was on Busy Power, so maybe some of you might be like, I remember Tok. But this mock was awesome. Really like Lurker, one of my favorite Dark Hunter designs. And Mr. Shaden, who has taken these pictures and is the guy that we're going to be... well, his version, his recreation of this character is what we're mainly going to be talking about now. What Mr. Shaden has done here is he has actually made instructions for how you could make Lurker yourself. So we were talking before about updating some of the previous examples, but... now what you could do is actually just straight up build some of the previous examples. Maybe there's some that you really, really liked. Well, head on over to this guy's Flickr, and he actually has instructions for pretty much all of them, which is really sweet. So go on ahead, take a look at them, build some yourself, because there's some pretty cool stuff going on. And honestly, some of those mocks I remember looking at in those books when I was younger and thinking, man, I wish I could build those. They look so cool. And now you can, because there's instructions online. So go ahead, take a look, and make some of them yourself, because it sounds like a fun day to play around and build with them. Plus, too, remember, these mocks were made in the early years of Bionicle, so there's gonna be a kind of more limited parts range with these guys, which is a good thing, because it means it's a little bit more likely that you might have these pieces. And heck, maybe as you're building it, you might be like, actually, I don't have that piece. Well, just update them. We've got a huge selection of pieces now that we just did not have when this mock was originally made. So you could easily update and change things around if you want to. But that's another option if you're building a Dark Hunter, is to actually just straight up build the original versions, because you can. But another lesson in that limited parts range thing, back in 2003 when the Metru came out, is that right? 2003, 2002? I don't know. Back in the early days, early 2000s, when the Toa Metru came out, which is when I believe this was made. Vaki in there, I don't know. Early days of Bionicle, when there weren't a huge amount of Bionicle-specific pieces, there was obviously a limited amount that you could mock with, whereas nowadays we have an abundance of different pieces, and it makes mocking with things way easier. But I think there's a cool lesson in that. There's no reason that you need to have a huge selection of all sorts of different pieces to make something cool. There's a more limited parts range at this time, and we were still able to get a really solid mock that, in my opinion, still holds up well in this day and age. So, pretty awesome. Really like the head design on this mock, using some of those Technic panel pieces there, and then putting in some of those axle connector pieces there to kind of form eyes. It just creates a really nice shape to that head, kind of using those lift arms as little teeth there at the bottom, and then those Borok teeth as additional teeth. Just looks really cool. Again, it's just such a unique head design that looks awesome and flows well with the rest of the body. I also really like the chains on him there. Just nice little details, but just adding in little system pieces like that to a mock really does a lot. And I think it works well on this mock. And it's something that I would definitely recommend you play around with, is see if you could add some minifigure accessories to a mock, because it might do a lot for it. Also nice to see those Vaki pieces there used on the upper legs, because those pieces are hard to use, man. And he's used them here quite well, in my opinion. Really like what he's done with those there, kind of creating this really interesting look to the leg design there, kind of streamlining it in a way. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Streamlining it in a way. I think I messed up that word when I said it. But awesome stuff. Really like what he's done. I also like these additional arms. They're sort of a different color. Kind of almost looks like they're some sort of mechanical add-on, kind of like Doc Ock or something. And I kind of like that. It sort of says a bit about the character. I haven't actually read Biosector if there's an explanation for that or not. But regardless, I think that's just a cool little addition which you could easily put on any mock. So I like that. Anyway, that's it for Lurker, one of the original fan-made Dark Hunter creations that you could build yourself. Let's head on over to another mock, the next one, which is by Brickelson and is called Nidhiki the Fallen Toa. So another option you could do when building your next mock, which is a Dark Hunter, is you could take a look at some of the Dark Hunter sets that we actually got, like I was saying before, with Nidhiki or Krekka or some of the, Paraka, those sorts of characters, and you could revamp those or reimagine those in a fun way, much like Mr. Brickelson has done here. So awesome to see this really interesting take on Nidhiki as a character. This is very much capturing what he is as a character and kind of timesing it by 10, like flipping it on its head and expanding upon it, but still staying true to the original material there. I absolutely love it. I think that's super cool. Really like how he's introduced a whole bunch of white into the color scheme here, and then sort of focusing it in specific areas, like the claws on his feet and the claws on his hands, and a little tiny claw there on his head. Just a really nice little accent color there that does a lot to this mock, and the original doesn't really have any white in it, it's more sort of silver, but he's got silver in other places and introduced a bit of white in here, and I think that's really welcome. It's a really welcome, beautiful addition. Also really like the kind of funky eye design, as well as the funky head design there, simply using those studs and kind of layering them in a fashion there, kind of almost representing like a spider or something. Just looks kind of evil and mutated, and after all, that's the story behind Nidhiki. It says here, the fallen Toa. Nidhiki was once a Toa, and then he ended up kind of getting mutated and fell from grace and became a Dark Hunter and got all mutated and ugly and awesome like this. And I think this reimagining of the character really seriously captures that in a nice way. All these tubes and everything here coming out of the torso and the arms and stuff really captures that mutated look. It really communicates that, which is just awesome to see. I really, really like what he's done. Also cool to see that Chima Speedor's piece there kind of used as the bottom jaw. All that printing on it kind of makes it look, a little more kind of, he's had to sort of update himself a little bit because he's got mutated, and maybe his jaw was damaged in the mutation, and so he's sort of got a steel jaw now, and it's kind of got a bit of damage on it and stuff from fights and things like that. I think that printing on there actually does a lot for the look on this character. I really like it. But yeah, really like a lot that's going on with this guy. Really, really solid build, really solid design, and a great way to reimagine the character. Awesome stuff. And finally, the last mock that we're going to be talking about today is a mock by Muffin Toa and is called Veridian. Now, this is just a custom mock. Veridian is not a specific canon character or anything. He has just gone, I'm going to make a Dark Hunter, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing more fun than just making up your own Dark Hunter character, because there's a lot of room to play with in that sort of evil bounty hunter mercenary kind of realm. You can explore that quite nicely. Heck, they don't even have to be evil. They're just a humble guy trying to make his way in the galaxy. There's no reason that he has to be evil. He can be his own allegiance. And actually, that's something I kind of like about this mock. It has this sort of soldier-like quality to it that it almost looks like he sort of has some sort of moral high ground. Maybe he doesn't quite kill. He'll just stun his enemies, and he's got a code or something. I don't know. I'm kind of just forming a story from what I see with this, and that's always cool when you can see a mock and a story just starts to form itself around it. I always like that. But there's a lot to love about Veridian here. Really, really like the fact that he's a little bit asymmetrical here, and on the one side he's got this sort of gun arm that's a different color to everything else, and then he's got his normal arm there. Just looks really cool. It's kind of like he's upgraded himself so that he's a more efficient bounty hunter, and then these little sort of trans blue bits there on the gun, as well as on the little antenna on his head there, really do a lot for the character. It's kind of little bit of Boba Fett or Mandalorian vibes there. It's pretty cool. And I also really like how he's got this sort of little waistcape thing here. It's just a nice little addition and does a lot for the mock. Almost sort of slightly starts to give it more sort of like a samurai kind of look, whereas it was a little more sort of spacey before. I imagine if it didn't have that little waistcape, it would look a little more samurai-like. A little less samurai-like, rather, and a little more like a sort of space marine or something. So it's just interesting how much that little one tiny little addition there on the waist can do a lot for the mock, and for all the right reasons as well. So it's cool. Also, once again, this mock was made in 2008, so a little bit older, about 10 years old, this mock. Wow, that's an old mock. But just because it's using a bunch of old parts back from, only 2008 onwards, or 2008 in the past, or that, got older parts. It's a bit of an older mock, but it's still a really great design, and honestly, I think it still holds up even to this day, just despite the fact that it's 10 years old. And again, like I said at the start of the episode, we're coming full circle. Like I said at the start of the episode, even if you have a limited parts range, there's still heaps that you can do, and you don't have to, break the bank and have all sorts of different, funky, crazy parts. You can work in a limited sort of part selection and still make a really fantastic, awesome mock, like we see here. So nice work, Muffin Tower, and nice work to everyone in this episode on Dark Hunters. 4 different ways that you could tackle looking at a Dark Hunter that we explored today with these 4 awesome mocks. So, in future, be sure to give that a go. Maybe you want to make a Bionicle mock yourself and make it a Dark Hunter, because Dark Hunters are pretty awesome. Speaking of pretty awesome, if you want to submit some of your own stuff to the show, you can. The best way to do so, the only way to do so, is through the email that you are currently seeing on your screen. Send me a link to your mock, and if it's not posted anywhere, send me some pictures. I prefer a link if you've got it. And then I will take a look at that, put it on the list, and one day it'll be on the show. Otherwise, take a look in the description for all the links to the mocks that you saw in today's episodes, including a few instructions for some of those Dark Hunters, so take a look at that. And while you're there, be sure to check out some of my social media and consider checking out my Patreon page. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. Happy building. Make some Dark Hunters. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.